a review of AEW Dynamite and Friday Night Smackdown. Uh-oh, this looks like double
trouble.
That's right. I'm Alex.
And I'm Brett.
And we're the Wrestling Bros.
And you need to shut up and sit down because it's time to go to school with the Wrestling Bros and talk about AEW Dynamite from Wednesday night.
Shut up and sit down.
AEW Dynamite. Oh man, this show, Brett, has given me some strong feelings, especially coming from last week's amazing card. This week, I've got some strong feelings. How was your thoughts about starting off this week of AEW Dynamite?
Well, my initial thoughts were I noticed immediately. First thing I noticed is that they put Jericho back on commentary. And he's always, like I said, he's gold with everything.
Yeah.
Even during the FTR and Butcher Blade match, and everything he was on commentary with up until Inner Circle Best Friends Orange Cassidy match, knows how to do that commentary and that color commentary and put over everybody in the ring. He was even putting over everything Orange Cassidy was doing, even though it was pissing him off at the same time, until he went down there. To me, the show stealer segment for the whole entire show, other than FTR's impressive debut, which I'll talk about in just a second. The entire show stealer for me is the whole Inner Circle Best Friends thing and what they ended up doing to Blood Orange Cassidy getting juice.
Yeah, that was great. So, as the show started up, one thing I noticed that I did enjoy was seeing Dr. Britt Baker parked in the audience with her Rolls Royce, and that made me laugh. And then it was good to see a lot of people sitting in the stands and not having to see all the the crappy plexiglass people standing around tired like it was on SmackDown.
Yeah, it seems to be a common theme that during this pandemic era of wrestling we're experiencing, AEW just tends to be a step ahead of WWE with everything in this regard.
As for Jericho, I thought he's great. Jericho's always great when he's on commentary. He was fantastic when it was just him and JR. No, it was him and Mike Tenay. Tony Schiavone, rather. Tony Schiavone. It was, yeah.
Mike Tenay, WCW, buddy.
Yeah. Sorry. Anyway, so Schiavone and Jericho a few weeks ago, commentary was fantastic. It was just great. But with Schiavone, Jericho, Excalibur, and Jim Ross. There were 4 commentators for the first half of the card. It got a little jumbled. There were too many voices, especially Jericho trying to yell everything he said in between people talking. I love Jericho. I love his commentary. This was too much. Maybe next time you put him in there with like one other commentator,
Yeah, I
That's where
think
you
it
really
off
shine.
during Jericho's commentary segment there when all four of them were down there, it often to me came off like Excalibur was coming off as the fourth wheel there,
Yeah.
especially with the way Jericho was trying to get over whatever he was saying, which he was doing a decent job. It was just he had to deal with three other commentators on the same table.
So our first match of the night, Butcher and Blade versus FTR. There's a lot of build-up going into this match. A lot of build-up of the big debut for FTR in AEW. My first kind of notes, my thoughts as it began was I love the look of Butcher. I love the way he knee stomps around the ring. He looks impressive. He looks intimidating. You know, the tattoos, the monocle, the handlebar mustache. Um, Pretty cool. I like the Blade's mask, but that's kind of the only thing I like about the Blade. He doesn't stand out to me at all, you know? Um,
Yeah, I know what you mean. They're pretty decent, but FTR obviously are the ones that stole the show here.
yeah, definitely. So FTR arriving in their big souped up truck and just burning it down, you know? Just having an amazing tag team match.
Like they pushed on commentary, like a real tag team match that was a classic tag team style match, and just like they would have said when they were the Revival in WWE. No flips, just fists. It was classic tag team.
It was. It was amazing work, and it shouldn't have been. It should have been the focal point of the entire night. It should have been the main event. But I'm going to get into that rant in a little bit because that's going to consume me and not let me enjoy um, the rest of this review. So, um, other notes I had going into this was that just looking at the FTR, Cash looks fantastic. He definitely got a better physique than Dax. He had the interview last week on Dynamite, and he talks better than Dax. But as you watch them wrestle, you can see that Dax brings a lot to the table. He's a machine in that ring. They both are. Um, but just looking at them, like on a poster or in a lineup, you're like, okay, he looks kind of dumpy. You know, he's not as physically doesn't have that six pack abs like Cash does. And I don't want to. I'm not dumping on Dax at all, but like okay, he didn't have the good looks that Dax does, but then you put him in the ring and he starts to do his craft, and you're like,
Yeah, once
holy
he's in
crap,
the ring,
you're blown
once
away.
once yeah, once they're in the ring, all questions are dropped.
A couple of really good spots that I really liked in the match was um, when Cash did that fake shoulder injury, and then he played possum and got the roll up. That was that was just art right there.
Yeah, that was a good spot. I
And then
also
go ahead.
really liked that superplex and elbow drop spot.
Yeah, that was on my list. That was gorgeous. And then they try to do their old finisher move, the shatter device or shatter machine or whatever it was. What's it called now?
Shatter Machine, yeah. They eventually did hit it at the end, but they call it something else in AEW now because WWE has the Shatter Machine trademark. So,
Really? Wow.
yep. So they now call it the Goodnight Express.
Is that a shout out to the Jim Cornette? You think? Do they
I
know?
have no idea.
You know that they did a podcast with Jim Cornette just before the debut. I watched the Jim Cornette podcast, or listened to, I should say, the Jim Cornette podcast. They're entertaining. Yeah, and then they finished finished it off with a gorgeous spike pile driver. I'm definitely looking forward to more FTR. My question is for you though: are they supposed to be heel or face?
I don't think that's actually been shown one way or the other on TV yet, because you'd think that they would have been heels, especially if they're going to end up, which eventually they will. It's just a matter of how long they're going to drag it out. Doing the match with the Young Bucks,
Right.
they're probably on the heel side of that.
Yeah,
But
because
I think that it's very smart of them to just not go right to that money match immediately.
yeah, um, because like FTR, they come off kind of heelish. They got that like attitude, like we don't give a damn, kind of like an early Stone Cold before we got too cartoony, kind of like we're outsiders, we're badasses, kind of heelish vibe. And they're cheating. They do that the spots in the ring, but they also don't break the rules, and but they're getting over. And they did a hot tag, which is totally a face tag team thing. And then the Young Bucks, who are one of the biggest face tag teams, come out and start acting like heels. They try to intimidate FTR.
Yeah, and I mean, I know they've had this little Twitter feud going on for years now, even when they weren't in the same company, and that's what they're building this whole thing on. But I do like that right now it's kind of unclear where FTR stands on heel or face.
Right.
And kind of like that, their name, FTR, can fit whatever they want it to fit for the moment. Like, it could fit Fear the Revolt or Fear the Revolution, or Follow the Rules or Fuck the Rules. It
Yeah.
could fit anything for what they want to do at any given moment.
So the next thing I saw on AEW Dynamite was a backstage segment talking about QT Marshall and Dustin Rhodes tag team. Supposedly they're getting a tag team title match against Adam Page and Kenny Omega.
It's not supposedly, it is. They are getting one next week. Why? I don't know.
So here we go. I'm going to go into rant mode here.
Okay.
What the hell did QT Marshall do to deserve a title shot? He has been nothing but a jobber, very little TV time, winning maybe some matches on AEW Dark. I mean, yes, Dustin's shown that he can run. He's a good competitor. He gets some wins now and then. When he wrestles, it's usually upper to top of the card. But QT Marshall, are you freaking kidding me? Get off my TV.
Yeah. I've never found QT Marshall to be very interesting at all. I mean, maybe this strange, weird story they seem to be crafting with him and the former bunny, who has apparently turned back to babyface ways and is now QT's girlfriend. Maybe
I don't give a damn.
I know.
I don't give a damn about her. Or, no, I don't care.
I don't know if that's their way of trying to make him more interesting.
I don't want QT Marshall or his girlfriend on AEW Dynamite at all. He can go and he can main event or star in as many AEW Darks as he wants. He can work house shows when the pandemic ends, and he can manage Dustin if he wants to, but there's no way no way in hell that he deserves a title shot for the tag team titles. It's just not a thing. It makes no sense.
Yeah, yeah. If they were trying to make QT Marshall more interesting by this, clearly judging by your reaction, if this was what they were going for, trying to make QT Marshall more interesting by throwing Allie out there, then clearly judging by your own reaction that it's not working because you just told us all you don't give a shit.
I don't. I don't at all. They've got a huge tag team division. Why are they making? Why are they giving a tag title shot to QT Marshall? Why is it even? Why is he? Why is he even relevant enough to be something I'm talking about? I'm done talking about him.
Mhm. All right, then. Let's move on because I don't really have anything pertinent to add other than the whole thing was pretty confusing.
Anyway,
uh,
so next up was the women's tag match: Nyla Rose and Ford versus Sheeta and Statlander. My question for you, Brett, is what the hell is going on with Chris Statlander's whole alien thing?
it's her gimmick. She just,
It,
I mean, not saying it's a great one, but
that's a lame gimmick. It's a stupid, boring gimmick.
I'm sure MJF agrees with you since he tweeted that the alien chick is the drizzling shits.
Oh, MJF. Oh, goodness. So not a bad match. I keep thinking whenever I see Nyla Rose in action, keep thinking this is what Nia Jax should be. You know?
Exactly. That is what Nia Jax should have been, but unfortunately, she doesn't have the talent or the patience or effort to learn to be talented enough to pull it off.
Some really amazing spot that noted down here for the women's tag match was the double top rope knee lift by Rose by Nyla Rose. Oh my god, it was an amazing spot. It was the first oh my god moment of the night.
Yeah, and if that's what I think you're talking about, then her top rope jumping knee lift thing, she does that a lot, but doing a double one in the tag team match,
It was a great
that
spot.
was pretty fucking impressive.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you have any other thoughts on the women's tag match?
I was actually quite surprised, not necessarily in a bad way, but I was quite surprised that Nyla and particularly Penelope Ford was the one to pick up the pinfall victory over the champion Hikaru Shida. Uh, because typically WWE is guilty of the champion gets pinned in non-title situation
Yeah.
booking sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I was surprised that that happened, although I suppose they probably do need something for Hikaru Shida to be doing. So I guess putting her against Penelope Ford with the belt on the line will just be a good, probably for a first defense for her. So
Yeah.
I'm just surprised that they went the WWE way of setting it up.
Yeah. One other thing that I wanted to mention about this match is that it was nice to see Chris Statlander fly off and attack Sabian. It's nice to see um, men and women fighting since it's banned in the WWE. You know?
Yeah, it's a
It,
totally different feel than WWE. Like WWE will not do anything. Like the closest they came on NXT the other night was an accidental bump that Johnny Gargano used to his advantage, but it was not like there was any purposeful, meaningful intergender anything that went on and ever goes on. That they stopped all the intergender stuff after the Attitude Era and
I
after
know.
China had the Intercontinental title.
Um, Yeah, so that was it was a good match. There's some good spots to it. The next was the Darby Allin vignette when he was skating with Tony Hawk. And so, is it just me, or is Darby Allin's injured? He's not cleared to wrestle, but he's doing dangerous skateboard stunts off a ladder over and over again. That's a good way not to get back onto the wrestling business. That's a good way to re-injure yourself and stay on the shelf.
Theoretically, you are correct. However, I'm pretty sure he's not actually injured in real life, and it's
Oh,
just a storyline.
well, it's a dumb
Uh,
storyline then.
um, but regardless, from what the research I've done on Darby Allin and the way he approaches things in life, even beyond just wrestling, he doesn't mind pain at all. Likes it. So
Yeah,
he was
I get it.
probably pushing that big net to try and do the stunt he wanted to do, no matter how many times he failed or how many times he fucked up or how many times he hurt himself. He wanted to do that particular stunt. And of course, by the end of the big net, he finally got it.
Yeah.
Um, and then whenever they do bring him back, it's TV. I certainly hope they've got something decent planned for him because I love Darby Allin. I think he's
Um,
great.
my prediction is that once Cage loses to Mox, Darby Allin is going to go after Cage for revenge for injuring him with that spot at All or Nothing, where he picked up the ladder with Darby Allin on it and threw him off the top rope, threw him over off the outside. I think that's what the quote unquote injury they're talking about. That was a crazy spot.
Yeah, that was probably the most crazy spot of the match.
And so I think
Um,
that Darby Allin is going to be feuding with Cage after Cage loses his feud with Mox because there's no way they're giving Brian Cage the title.
and that will be a sight to behold because I'm sure Brian Cage will throw Darby Allin around like a
Yeah.
fucking stuffed animal.
Yeah, it'll be a great match, no doubt about that. So next was the Britt Baker segment, and I just have to say, I wasn't really a Britt Baker fan before she got injured, but these vignettes are great. I think getting injured is the best thing for her career. I'm
As
not saying she's,
funny as that sounds to say, I think you're right. She's turned heel now. She's not because when AEW first started, they were pushing her as a babyface
she was
still,
boring.
and it was boring. Yeah, it was boring. There was nothing interesting about it. And so I think they quickly figured out, okay, we got to do something different. Then she got injured, and when she got injured, they took that opportunity and were like, let's run with this heel thing and see how it goes.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's
fantastic.
coming off much better.
Oh yeah, she's very charismatic. She's funny. It's the best thing that's happened to her yet. Next segment was the 6-man tag match. Best friends and Orange Cassidy versus the Inner Circle. It's good to see Jake Hager in the ring again. He's so much better than his previous persona, Jack Swagger. Good God, WWE just doesn't know how to promote a good wrestler. And if it wasn't for AEW, we wouldn't know how awesome Jake Hager is.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell the difference if you go back and watch any of Jack Swagger on the WWE network and then watch Jake Hager on AEW. You can see the difference between the two. It's almost night and day.
Yeah. Um,
Uh,
some good spots in this match were the double Hurricane Rana from Cassidy. That was awesome.
definitely, that was quite impressive.
And I'm surprised that Cassidy got the win. AEW is doing a great job pushing him. They're not
Yeah,
pushing him too hard, but they're doing a good job pushing him, you know?
yeah. And then, of course, after he gets the win is when Jericho comes running down and they do the whole beat the shit out of Orange Cassidy deal.
Yeah. They actually beat him up with blood oranges and then juiced him. I love the irony there. It's so I know last week I complained about Cody Rhodes blading in his match with Jungle Boy because it seems like he and Dustin they have a blading fetish, but it's nice to see some color and some blading in this day and age now that WWE does not blade anymore. You know, it's fresh and it's like it adds that extra impact of drama.
Yeah, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved the way that they did that. And like I said, everything Jericho touches turns to gold. Only Jericho, the man with a bag of blood oranges, and have it go over.
Yep, yep.
Um,
It that segment very much seemed to me like an old NWO lynching.
yep, most assuredly. And if, like I mentioned, if this leads to Orange Cassidy and Chris Jericho, that'll actually be quite an entertaining match, I'm sure.
I think Cassidy needs to work on his actual in-ring work a little bit and less of his high spots uh, to be a more fully rounded wrestler. But I agree, it'll be entertaining.
Very much so.
Next, we had the little segment with MJF and Billy Gunn. MJF is always great on the mic. It's fantastic.
Yes.
And I loved how when he called Billy Gunn's sons dirtbags or whatever, and then Billy Gunn got in his face, he started immediately backpedaling and calling Wardlow to come save him.
Yep. Classic heel. Classic heel. And
I think
then
it's. Oh, go ahead.
shortly after that, I think, is when they announced that they're having the MJF and Billy Gunn match next week on the next Dynamite, which, of course, we know MJF will win because he's now going to have his first loss to Billy Gunn, that's for sure.
No, and I guess we can't go without saying that. Or without talking about the WWE filing a lawsuit against AEW or having their lawyers get involved about the trademark of the name Billy Gunn.
Yep. They have gotten involved in it. Apparently, from what I've read, Billy still has some rights to it in terms of like merchandising or something like that, but
Okay.
he apparently can't use it as a ring name anymore now. So I wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden he starts getting referred to as just Billy or some other variation of Gun Club that they can
Yeah.
get away with.
Billy
But
from the Gun Club.
yeah, um, either way, he's not getting past MJF, that's for sure.
Yeah. That'll be a decent match. Next, we had Sammy Guevara and Colt Cabana. I love how like a lot of factions in wrestling have their hand signal, like the NWO had the like the Wolfpack 2 suite and the DX had the crotch chop. I love that the Inner Circle's hand motion is just a middle finger.
Yeah, that's great. They just flip everyone off.
Yep.
I and especially they started doing that first when they started like doing the shield like triple power bombs to different members of the elite off the stages and stuff like that. So I almost at first thought of it like it was their way of doing a shield like fist bump but saying fuck you to WWE instead, but
Mhm.
it's just involved or evolved into a total fuck you period to whoever they're doing it to, and I like it. I just love it.
Yeah. Uh, so I like Cabana in this match. I liked it better than last week's match with Jericho. I just think they had a clash of styles. This one much better. It's surprising how fast and how fluent Cabana can move, especially how much bigger he is than Guevara. You know?
Yeah. It was quite an eye opener to see how fast he could move and keep up with Sammy. Not only because of his size, but also because he's so much older than Sammy.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh, and then for some reason, the flying apple move is starting to grow on me. I'm starting to look forward to it every time.
yeah, it's just entertaining. That's what it is. It's just an entertaining spot. And of course, I like where they're going. Of course, at the end of this, Colt Cabana fucks up. Sammy gets the win,
Yep.
and Brody Lee comes out once again, helps Colt Cabana up, and Colt Cabana goes down the wrong tunnel and goes to the Dark Order. So
It was really cool to see Uno and Grayson again. That was
yeah, it
they've
was
been gone
good
so
to see
long.
them all together. I think I may have mentioned to you before we started this endeavor that, that we needed Evil Uno and Stu Grayson back
Yeah.
with Brody Lee for the Dark Order, and lo and behold, that's what we get. So that was very, very good. And I do think that the way they're doing this, it looks like Colt Cabana will be their first bigger recruit now.
Yeah. It'll be interesting what they do, whether they have him just be a part of the Dark Order and him getting a push as a member of the Dark Order, or if they decide to like maybe have him start in the Dark Order and then lead to a feud between him and Brody Lee, which would also be a good push for Colt Cabana. Either way, it's good for Colt Cabana. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
good for Colt Cabana. It will really only lead to better things for Colt Cabana from here, really.
yeah, no doubt about it. Beyond that, there was that weird vignette with Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss. What the hell going on with
Yeah,
that?
I'm not really sure because it was really short and they said to be continued, so I have no idea where they're going with it. Uh, Other than it looking like Joey Janela seems like he's down on his luck. What is he going to be, the next Dark Order recruit?
I don't know. And then they had the Mox interview. Mox was really fired up, and then it got into that like Taz finally a fire under Taz's ass as he came over to yell at Mox, and then Brian Cage came over and attacked him. It was a nasty little street fight with their good-looking car spots, and Mox was selling the hell out of it. He looks like he was actually in pain. Um, it was brutal, even for a short couple minute spot. Here's my question to you, Brett: does Taz always bring that orange towel everywhere he goes?
uh, I think so because I think he did it a lot when he was in ECW and when he first showed up in WWF, where they relegated him to commentary only. So I think he will be bringing that orange towel with him wherever he goes.
Like
And
I've got a favorite color. It's neon green, but I don't have a fetish. I don't bring a neon green stuff around me everywhere I go. I understand that he's got a favorite color, but what the hell, Taz?
what I'm more concerned with than the orange towel is Taz basically using his old ECW catchphrase to get Ryan Cage over and over
Yeah.
and over, and over. It's annoying to me.
It seemed like as Taz was trying to give directions to Cage, it seems like Cage is just like a wild animal that doesn't know how to talk or think for himself. You know?
Yeah, and that's really giving off to me Paul Heyman, Brock Lesnar vibes, especially when Heyman would tell Brock, "No, stop," and he still doesn't.
Yeah.
It gives off those vibes to me. And along those lines of giving off those vibes, we all know from hearing what John Moxley had to say on Stone Cold's old podcast a few years ago that he wanted when he had his WrestleMania match against Brock Lesnar, he wanted it to be a knockdown, drag out, complete hardcore, total
Like death match.
showdown. And that's obviously not what we got because that's not what Brock wanted to do. He just wanted to come in, do his suplexes, pin Dean Ambrose, and go home, and that's what happened. I think this time the match with Brian Cage is going to be exactly what Moxley wanted to do with Brock Lesnar.
Well, if his match at All or Nothing with Mr. Brody Lee was any indication, this match is going to be amazing.
Definitely. Definitely. John Moxley has not failed to impress me once yet in AEW.
So, can you feel it, Brett? Can you feel it building up? It's rage time. It's ranting rage time.
Okay, well, before we let you get to that, I gotta let everybody know how I was thinking before you gave me your take on this, and how you actually changed my mind. Because this is how I was looking at this. The main event with Mark Quinn and Cody Rhodes. It had already been established. Cody Rhodes said, "I'm going to defend this title every week, an open challenge kind of deal." And yeah, it was originally supposed to be Rey Fenix, but he's either injured or can't get there or whatever. So they substituted Mark Quinn in. And I was just looking at it before I talked to you as, oh, it's an open challenge deal that they've already previously acknowledged. So this is just their attempt at doing the open challenge thing in the main event, and they substituted Mark Quinn in for Rey Fenix, and they're trying to show what Mark Quinn can do and tell a story with his injured leg and his high flying offense and da 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 da. And I thought the match was pretty good, and I thought it was actually decent. And then I talked to you, and once I got your take on it, it gave me a whole new look. And although I still think the match wasn't a bad match, and Mark Quinn is very talented, your take on it did change a little bit of how I looked at it. With that in mind, let's go to your take on it.
So first of all, when Cody Rhodes won the TNT Championship, it was in a grueling tournament that lasted several weeks, and his last match was against the monster Lance Archer. In a bloody, bloody match, Cody Rhodes finally won. Great match, great build-up, really added prestige to the title. Then the week after, his first challenge was against Jungle Boy Jack Perry. Leading up to this, Jungle Boy Jack Perry had a really amazing fight with MJF. He lost the fight, but it was a great match. Really kind of built up both men. And then the next week on, AEW Dynamite, they had a battle royal to decide the next competitor for the TNT title. A lot of great talent in that battle royal, including MJF and Wardlow, including Luchasaurus and Billy Gunn. I couldn't name them all I couldn't remember them all, but there's a lot of great talent in there. And Jungle Boy Jack Perry won, fought very hard, and he earned that shot. Jungle Boy Jack Perry is a good mid-card wrestler, great for a good mid-card belt, right? Which the TNT Championship is the secondary singles title on an AEW. Therefore, it's got to be a mid-card or upper mid-card title. So, that being said, Jungle Jack Perry gave Cody Rhodes one hell of a fight. My previous beef with that match was that Cody Rhodes had to make it a little too epic. He had to make it a little too much. He gave it too many high spots. He didn't need a blade. He didn't need to go through the table. He's fighting Jungle Jack.
I totally agree with that.
He's fighting Jungle Boy Jack Perry, not Chris Jericho. You know? Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Whatever. Good match all around, though. Next week, who's he going to face to top that match? Mark Quinn. Who the fuck is Mark Quinn? Oh, Mark Quinn is half of the tag team of Private Party, who have been losing matches for months. They've had very little TV time on Dynamite. This is Mark Quinn's first ever singles match in AEW. He's not over. He gets very little TV time. Last week, he lost his tag team match. Oh, now he's buddy-buddy with Matt Hardy. Does that mean he gets a title match? No. What the hell?
Yeah.
Why? What gives him the... yeah, I understand. Cody Rhodes is doing the open challenge for his title every week. But you go from Lance Archer to Jungle Boy Jack Perry to a jobber like Mark Quinn. Now, Mark Quinn is a fine tag team wrestler. He's got some talent in the ring. He's charismatic, sure. But is he main event worthy? No, not in the slightest. Maybe
Not
if you...
outside of a tag team match.
Maybe if you built him up over a month, let's say. Let's give him 3 to 4 weeks where he's not even wrestling singles matches, but he's having some really great tag team matches. Maybe have Private Party take on the tag team champions, take on Omega. Yeah, that would be, there we go. Build it up. Show that Mark Quinn is a great athlete. Kind of shine him on his, have him be the shining light in his tag team. Have him carry his tag team for a little while. Show that he's got some guts. Give him some more camera time. And then, yeah, sure, down the line, have him fight Cody Rhodes for the TV title in the middle of the card. So I've got 2 gripes with this. One, Mark Quinn, pretty much a nobody, getting a title shot. It's his first singles match completely in the company, getting a title shot for the second most prestigious title in the company against one of the 4 main event stars, Cody Rhodes. My second gripe: why was this match the main event of AEW Dynamite? Yeah, Cody Rhodes is a main eventer, but Mark Quinn is a jobber. Okay, maybe a little bit higher than jobber, but still. Why not make FTR versus the Butcher and the Blade the main event? That's what everyone was waiting for. That's what everyone was waiting for their debut. Were they not? Am I wrong?
No, I believe you're correct. Everyone wanted to see FTR's debut on this Dynamite.
And so half of the audience probably stopped watching after their match was over. Especially when they heard from the beginning of the show that the main event was going to be Cody Rhodes versus Mark Quinn. Why was that in the main event? Just because Cody Rhodes is defending his TNT title doesn't mean it's automatically a main event match. It's a mid-card or upper mid-card belt, sure. If he was going against MJF, yes, that would be a main event match. If he was going against Kip Sabian, maybe that's a main event match. Maybe, upper mid-card or match. Name some more guys, Brett. Throw some names out there.
That's easy. I'm gonna end up saying, If it was Ray Phoenix, maybe it could have been the main event. But other than that, I don't really know.
So why Ray Phoenix?
Just because he's really, really, really good in that fucking ring.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, Mark Quest, he he wasn't even that great in the ring. Like, yeah, he does some high spots, but he doesn't even have enough flair and attention to detail to make them look that flashy. Oh, you can jump out of the ring and hit someone, but so can pretty much everyone else in AEW, and it doesn't look that great when you do it.
Well, I can say that part of the, at least how I took it, was part of the reason that a lot of his high flying offense that he was doing wasn't hitting as hard as he wanted, or as hard as it should have looked, or should I say, as weak as it may have looked to you, because they were trying to sell the story of Cody had hurt his knee, and his knee was hurt, and despite his knee being hurt, he was still trying to do his same offense that he always does, because that's how he wrestles, and he doesn't know how to wrestle any other way. So despite his leg being injured, he was still going for the less impactful offense because he didn't know how to wrestle at Cody any other way.
Yeah, I'm just pissed because that should have been the middle of the match, the middle of the card, or the opening match. It shouldn't have been the main event. It was not main event caliber, and honestly, Brett, because of that, and because of the rest of the card being kind of meh, not counting FTR because that was a great match. I'm my rating for this AEW Dynamite uh, is WCW Thunder. That's my rating.
Yeah,
That,
and I remember
that
when you first said that, I was like, ouch, ouch, okay. But then you kind of explained your side like you did here, and I kind of saw where you're coming from. Um, because the TNT title, yeah, is obviously the secondary title in AEW, but it's also based on the way that Cody has presented it and presented himself to be defending it every week. Um, it's pretty much been established that it's the TV title level title. So even though it's a secondary title in AEW, it's a TV type title if you're looking at it in an old school type manner. And therefore, I get what you're saying about how it shouldn't have been in the main event, particularly with Mark Quinn, who was wrestling his first singles match in AEW.
this felt to me, Brett, like the main event of a WCW Saturday night.
Yeah, that was another ouch when I first heard it, but I like getting different takes and being able to have you have these different takes because, like I said, I didn't look at it like that at all before you brought it up to me. And now I can at least concede with you that yes, it wasn't a main event match. It shouldn't have been the main event match, and it should have been lower on the card. And I would then agree that FTR in their debut probably should have headlined the show.
So,
Because to me, that was probably the best actual match of the night.
what's your honest rating for this episode of AEW Dynamite?
Uh, I you want my rating before I got your take or after?
Both. We'll do both because you had an honest take, and then I kind of gave you a different perspective on it, and then you had so. Let's hear your first rating, and then your secondary rating after my perspective.
My first rating was it was pretty decent, and I thought that it was a good show. And I definitely wasn't thinking WCW Thunder levels. I was just thinking it was a decent Dynamite show. And regardless of whether or not it should have actually been in the main event, I automatically expected the TNT title match to be in the main event because it's Cody defending his title, and that's what Cody does. And I didn't bat an eyelash at that. And then when you, I looked at things a little differently. But up until that point, I just took it in stride as, yep, it's Cody defending his TNT title, so that's what Cody does. Of course, it's going to be the main event. And then they put on a good match, and they told the story of Mark Quinn's injured leg.
Wow, you're cutting out really bad, Brett.
Cody, any other?
Brett, you're cutting out really bad. Damn Skype, stupid Skype. Sorry, guys. We are recording via Skype because we are several states away from each other, and we don't have any professional recording equipment. Could you say that again, Brett?
Yes. What I was saying was that up until I heard your rant on the subject, I was just looking at it like, oh yeah, it's Cody defending the TNT title, so of course it's going to be in the main event because that's what Cody does, and I kind of just let it go right past me on that and didn't put any criticism for that at all. And I thought it was a decent match, and they told a decent story with Mark Quinn's leg getting hurt, but him still not knowing any better way to wrestle Cody than his offense, which, as you pointed out, looked a lot weaker with his injured leg. But to me, the story of the match was that he didn't know any other way to fight Cody because that's how he wrestles, and he was still doing it even though he was injured. So I thought it was still a decent match, and that they told a decent story, and I still do think that, but I now concede with you that yes, it should not have been in the main event of the show. It should have been earlier in the show.
So what's your rating overall?
Overall, I'd have to say it was a passable Dynamite. I don't think there was a moment where I was actually bored watching it. But you ended up being right, and when I saw that, and I saw that Mark Quinn and Cody really probably should have been in the middle of the show, and the FTR debut that everybody was waiting for should have been in the main event, especially since they were hyping that up more than anything else.
Yeah.
Then I saw that it wasn't quite as great a show as I thought it was, even if it did keep me entertained all the way through.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. Now we have the I don't know if you would call it the pleasure of
How about the dubious distinction?
Yeah.
The dubious distinction of covering Friday Night SmackDown, as JD would say, run by his good old buddy Bruce. And yeah, so let's start this one off. What did you think of how they opened SmackDown?
Yeah, well, you know, Jeff Hardy is my favorite wrestler of all time, especially now Jeff Hardy, current Jeff Hardy. Meh. Back Jeff Hardy. And you know how I love Sheamus. And this whole angle between them and Jeff Hardy's sobriety and his addiction is just in poor taste. It's low hanging fruit. It's just bad taste. And no one wants to watch it. Really, no one wants to watch it. And now Sheamus coming out with a doctor having Jeff Hardy take a piss test in front of everyone. That sounds like Vince McMahon's potty humor from the get-go.
Yeah, not to mention, you know, the way they did that came off as overly hokey, not only because of the toilet humor, but the size of that fucking jar and how much was in there. It looked like Jeff Hardy hadn't gone to the bathroom all fucking day.
It's true. It's true. That was almost a mason jar that they had him piss in, not in like one of those little medical cups. In the day and age we live in, where you go to get, to apply for a job, they have you take a piss test, and I've seen it. I've done it a couple times now. The cup is not that big, and
yeah, no, it's not.
oh, good God. So, and then Jeff Hardy throwing the piss in James's face, that screams Vince McMahon bad writing. So I was happy for that segment to end.
Yeah.
And I thought it was funny, that line, Jeff Hardy, it's better to be pissed off than pissed on, and that got the crowd chanting, "You got pissed on," and they had to edit out the word "pissed on." They could say "pissed off," but they couldn't say "pissed on." Then they had to censor the crowd chanting, "You got pissed on," even though the crowd are the people employed by Vince McMahon.
Yeah, the NXT development crew and
Yeah.
That was pretty stupid.
Vince McMahon tells them what to do and what to say, yet they're going to chant something that has to be bleeped out on Fox?
Yeah, it.
Anyway, next was the tag team match, The New Day versus Shinsuke Nakamura and Sheamus. Everyone's going crazy about The New Day kneeling as they went in with their Black Lives Matter garb, which is great. I'm glad that Vince McMahon is letting them do this because it's important.
Of course it is. Of course it's important. I don't know why everybody was so up in arms or freaking out over Vince McMahon letting the New Day do this. It's an important statement for them to make, even if it's one that not everybody agrees with, which obviously it isn't, because if it was, then we wouldn't have everybody up in arms about it. But another thing I want to say there is, what else would you expect from the New Day?
Right, of course.
Of course, they're it's important to me, and it's just as important to me as it is to them, and of course it's going to be important to them. So I don't understand what the big deal is. Just for once, that's Vince McMahon letting his talent go out there and do something they want to do that meant something to them, and I think we should see more of that.
Definitely.
Not this micromanagement of Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard.
Right.
So,
yeah. So, congrats to the New Day for being able to kind of be leaders of their community and the Black Lives Matter community. We definitely follow that. That's fantastic. Unfortunately, the New Day didn't win their match, which is kind of stupid. They
again,
lost.
I must say, the old WWE way of having the champions lose on TV to get the challengers a title match. That seems to be the way for anybody to get a title match now. Either that or just come up and ask for one. But yeah, and so I'm wondering if, as you were about to say, since New Day didn't win their match, Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro won, with Shinsuke looking like he was phoning it in with a really shitty roll up there.
Yeah.
Makes me wonder if they're gonna try and put the SmackDown Tag Team Title match on Backlash, like
I
on
think
the pre-show or something.
they might. It's a pretty big card already, and with the way that the trends are going with the pay-per-views for WWE, I doubt it, because last pay-per-view was pretty small, runtime wise.
True, very true.
So I don't think they're gonna have room for all these extra matches that they haven't scheduled yet. I think a lot of talent is not going to get showcased at Backlash. Moving forward, getting to the thing that's going to really make me angry but happy at the same time. The finals for the Intercontinental tournament.
Yes, easily the match of the night. Hell, not even the match of the night. It's the match of the friggin' year. Or at least it would be if it didn't have 5 commercial breaks in it.
So as I was watching this match, there was so much build up to that everyone was waiting for so much. Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles, two of the best wrestlers in the world right now. Two of the best technical wrestlers right now. That they're just amazing in the ring. Building this matchup for a month and a half almost to decide the vacant IC champion. This was a very, very long match.
Yeah, I believe.
There were some great moments in this match.
Oh yeah, definitely. There were some great moments. I mean, but what? Of course, when you Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles, of course they're gonna go out there and give it their all. I think doing my research for this match, I think with commercials and all, it clocked in around almost 40 minutes or so.
Yeah. And of course, WWE had to take. So this is a pre-taped match, right, Brett?
Yes.
Pre-taped match. They showed last week on SmackDown they could do picture-in-picture on Fox, right?
Yep. They did.
But they didn't do that, did they?
No, and you would think, especially with a pre-tape match, they would just show the picture-in-picture so you could see what was going on throughout the entire match. But no, they didn't do that.
Also, this was pre-taped, so they could have just done a cut for a commercial and then come back right where that cut ended. But they didn't, did they?
Nope. No, they didn't. They would come back at completely different spots where you've obviously missed some action or something going on, and something they could have easily shown on picture-in-picture during the break.
If you're going to have a match of this caliber, which I believe should have been the main event of the freaking pay-per-view, let alone the mid-card match on SmackDown.
Yeah. I have something to say about the pay-per-view part in a second, but I'll let you keep going.
If you're going to have this match on cable, and if you're going to take 4 goddamn commercial breaks during it, if it's not live, Why can't you show the whole match in its entirety? Why do they take little snippets out of it during each commercial when you don't have to, when it's pre-taped? When it's an amazing match like this between Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles, why do you have to take anything away from it? Why would you do that?
I know it doesn't make much sense. Why they would not show everything picture in picture on the commercial breaks throughout the whole match, so everybody could get the whole experience, and you wouldn't have missing chunks throughout the match. As far as it not being the pay-per-view main event, as much as I agree with you that it should be the pay-per-view main event, or at least high up on the card on the pay-per-view.
At least on the pay-per-view itself. This was
Yeah.
a WrestleMania quality match, for God's sakes.
Yeah. I totally agree with you that it should have at least been on the pay-per-view, if not the main event. But anybody that actually sits down for a couple minutes to think about it could probably figure out that they've obviously been promoting, as we've said, Edge and Randy Orton as the greatest match ever, which has also been pre-taped. And of course, they're not going to want the Intercontinental title match between AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan to overshadow their hyped up greatest match ever on that show. So they couldn't put them on the same show.
See, this is what's wrong with the WWE wrestling product right now. This is what's wrong. It's people like Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard sitting in their little corner, sniffing their own farts, and getting their own little echo chamber because there's no fans that they can listen to, and during the matches they're not doing any house shows. They can't get that feedback from the actual events. So all they get feedback from are maybe a little bit of what they look at online, which I doubt Vince McMahon looks at stuff online. He barely looks at his competitor on television.
Yeah.
So the only real thing they have from feedback is all the yes men who say, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea. Oh no, yeah, do that. Oh yeah. Oh no, you're right for firing Paul Heyman. Yeah, I know." And merchandise sales, which, woo.
Yeah.
I'm a very big wrestling fan, and I haven't bought any merchandise from them in over 15 years.
Yeah, I haven't bought any merchandise from them in quite some time too. Well, just as long, if not longer, because I mean, like these days, especially with how bad and micromanaged the product comes across, you almost don't want to be known as a wrestling fan.
It's a guilty pleasure. It really is.
And that's sad considering how it used to be in our childhood and heyday. Everybody was always talking about wrestling and what was going to happen next, and nobody batted an eyelash if that's what you were talking about through a whole hour-long period. Everybody wanted in on the discussion. Now, it's almost an embarrassment, like you said, a guilty pleasure.
It is. But we're still fans. We still watch it because we want it to be a better product. Hashtag make wrestling better. That's what we're here. We wait every week. Is this going to be a better show? Is this going to be a better show? I want to support a better show. Make wrestling better. But no, this was the best match in a very long time. And it wasn't the main event.
Yeah, that alone, okay, if you're not going to put it on the pay-per-view, at least make it the main event of the show.
So, AJ Styles wins. I thought Daniel Bryan was going to win because you could really feel that he was pushing every extra inch, 110, 120, 130%. He was really hauling on AJ Styles' limbs during those submission holds. You could see it in his face. You could hear it in his voice. But AJ Styles won his first ever IC title. I don't really. The outcome is not that important. It's the match itself that was important. Um, and then
Yeah,
they had to
because
follow
either
this.
one of them could really have believably walked away as the winner. So
Yeah, they're both great. And then they had to follow this epic, possibly match of the year segment with Bayley and Sasha Banks. And I'm sorry, I love Bayley and Sasha Banks, but there's no way you can follow this amazing match. It should have been the main event. There should have been nothing else after it. And then so we had Bayley and Sasha Banks, and Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, and the Iconics, and I was just so emotionally spent after that. I couldn't care less. I didn't pay attention. I'm sorry.
I actually I agree with you there. As much as I do care about Bailey and Sasha, um, coming right out of that Intercontinental title match for that, just took it.
It was such
Yeah.
it was such poor booking, such poor scheduling of the card, and so yeah, the women's tag team title vignette, the bit trying to pump their match at Backlash I might as well have just taken a mini nap. And then we had the main event, the quote unquote main event.
Yeah. How this got to main event over the Intercontinental title match? Please explain it to me.
So
Or
it's Braun Strowman and Otis and the ghost of Tucker, because Tucky's probably dead somewhere because he hasn't been on TV for 3 months. Heavy Machinery and Braun Strowman versus Miz Morrison and Dolph Ziggler in the main event. In a
did a
6-man
little
tag.
mini tease of a possible Otis cash in by Tucker, saying you could do this tonight, but I don't think that's going to be happening. But either way,
So it was an okay match.
Yeah, it was a fine match in terms of what you would expect from these guys, but main event over the Intercontinental title match? No, wrong answer.
They've
Denied.
got
F. They scored an F on this one.
Yeah, big old fat F on that one. They've got the live action Scooby Doo and Miz Morrison, and they've got the guy who's still feuding with Otis for some reason, Dolph Ziggler, against the Universal Champion who's doing nothing with that belt, making it look like crap. And and Otis who's doing, I like Otis, and then Tucker who's actually can do stuff in the ring. Glad he's getting some actual television time, but the fact that they put this 6-man tag match over Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles for the coveted Intercontinental Championship, the 45-minute match, the 5-star match, the match of the year, the WrestleMania match, they put this over that? It's just asinine. Whoever was putting together this card needs to be dragged in the middle of the street and shot.
There you have it, folks. A very strong opinion from Alex there. I hope that wasn't Bruce that put the card together, because
well, it definitely wasn't Paul Heyman, I can tell you that.
Anyhow, yeah, another thing I noticed there is that during this 6-man tag, of course, Otis went running off after Mandy because King Corbin showed up on the screen backstage talking to Mandy, saying, "Oh, you're fantasizing about me. You want to be with a real man." Blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares about King Corbin.
Nope.
But there he was, and Otis went running off. And before Otis went running off, like, everybody in the match stopped what they're doing just to watch King Corbin. It's like, you're wrestling match here. Why do you give a flying fuck? Why Mandy Rose is just standing in the backstage area doing nothing.
Yeah, it really broke. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, ultimately, Otis comes back, does his little belly Hulk up, and we end up getting Heavy Machinery and Braun Strowman as the winners of the quote unquote main event of this week's SmackDown. Okay, so you want to talk WCW Thunder levels of main event.
Oh, God.
If you thought Mark Quinn and Cody was a WCW Thunder level main event, what did you think of this one?
So, yeah, I'm super pissed about this, and I'm even more angry that both of these shows had horrible mismatched main events. Horribly. It's like, really? AEW and SmackDown, are you really going to be doing this to me 2 times in a row? What the hell? Someone's got their head in their ass and it's contagious. So, but the one thing about SmackDown compared to AEW's Dynamite this week is that SmackDown had their top champion in the main event.
True.
That's the one good thing I have to say. I hate Braun Strowman as the Universal Champion, but that's the one good thing I have to say, is that they had the top champion in their main event. Now, if he didn't have the Universal title, which is losing overness, to quote EWR, the title is losing overness.
Yeah.
Then yeah, there's no other reason that AJ Styles versus Daniel Bryan shouldn't have been the main event. And so, overall, this was a great SmackDown because of that match.
Yeah, this match saved the entire show.
It really
That
did.
Intercontinental title match saved the entire show. And to be honest with you, now that they don't have the Intercontinental title tournament and an Intercontinental title tournament final match to focus on, I'm afraid of what fucking direction they're going to go on SmackDown now. I'm afraid of more boring shows that don't mean anything because they don't have a tournament to focus on.
Yep. Yeah, and then can I just add that Sami Zayn was stripped of this title because he would not come out of quarantine. After the build-up they've given this title, from Sami Zayn being the champion to this amazing match between the two of the best workers in the business today, Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles, there's no way in hell Sami Zayn's going to get the title back when he comes back to work. There's no way. No way.
To tell you the truth, I don't even think that WWE considered the idea of giving him the title back beforehand. I honestly think that even though they told during this whole pandemic quarantine era that you can go ahead and stay home if you feel you need to and you won't be punished, I think this is them being hypocritical and saying, you're supposed to be our Intercontinental Champion and you chose to stay home, so we're going to take the belt from you and you're not going to have your spot when you get back.
Well, I mean, to be perfectly honest, brutally honest, if you may, Sami Zayn staying home and not defending his belt is probably the best thing they could have done for the IC title. Because look where it is now. It's more prestigious than the Universal title.
Yeah, you make a point. It definitely is. Especially when you consider that before Sami Zayn, the current Universal Champion is the one who lost it to Sami Zayn in the 3-on-1 handicap match. Yeah.
I've gotten very little good things to say about Braun Strowman. So,
Yeah,
but
he's very much approaching get off my TV levels of boring and overdone, and I mean pretty much when it comes to Braun Strowman, you get the running power slam, you get some power moves, you get some yelling, and you get running around the ring like a train, knocking people now into the plexiglass instead of barricade.
yeah. He's basically a giant-sized version of Roman Reigns now.
Yep.
And I don't care about him.
The only time I'm going to care about Braun Strowman is when The Fiend is defeating him to get the belt back.
I don't know about you, but I'm after that rant. I'm emotionally drained. This week has been a. They had some good matches this week, but it's been just emotionally draining on me. I get so angry. Their stupid booking.
Well, I'm glad we have you here for some logic and to bounce things off of so that we don't just have one opinion. We have two. That's the whole point of the Wrestling Bros. And now that we've covered our thoughts and feelings on this week's AEW Dynamite show from Wednesday and the SmackDown show from last night on Friday, the next show we're going to need to cover is what
The greatest show!
The greatest show ever. What actually goes down at Backlash 2020 versus what we may have predicted would go down on our first podcast. So soon you'll be hearing from us on what we thought of Backlash. In the meantime, folks, after hearing all our thoughts on AEW Dynamite this week and the Friday night SmackDown, this has been the Wrestling Bros, and I want to thank you very much.
Yes, thank you
for taking the time to listen to us and what we have to say and our opinions. Give us a follow on Twitter at bros_wrestling.
We have a Facebook page now. If you go on there and like us, it's facebook.com/Bros Wrestling. No underscore, just Bros Wrestling. Give us a like. We're posting everything on there as well.
Yep, we're trying to get out there as best we can. And we're going to continue to bring you our thoughts on all things wrestling, AEW, WWE, SmackDown, Raw, and maybe at some point, if we have time, we'll cover some NXT. I watch way more NXT than Alex has the time to.
Yeah.
So that's why NXT doesn't get covered here nearly as much as the rest of the product.
Maybe when you get your new computer, and you can do your own take on NXT.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that.
All right. Well, thank you so much, folks, for tuning in. That was the Wrestling Bros Double Trouble reviewing AEW Dynamite and Friday Night SmackDown. Stay tuned for upcoming podcasts and videos. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. School's out.